Let me thank the program director and also acknowledge the CEO of PECO, Mr. Salvan Gavenda, the Group Chief Executive Officer, Ms. Bashal Musami, and also the Chair of the Board and also the members of the Board of PECO SA, management and staff, and also ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. It's my pleasure to stand before you here this morning as we start this session today. I will be talking to you briefly on this topic, what we call the mega trends influencing global higher education. In it, just to say what are the opportunities for these flexible strategies that as universities and higher institutions we must begin to adopt. This is the layout of my presentation, where I will just giving you what do we define this mega trend, what is a mega trend, and also give you some contextual background, also looking into South Africa, the state of affairs, where we are, and maybe just to quite a number of mega trends that I will just mention to you and also try to explain them. And lastly, my concluding remarks and also the list of references that I've consulted for this particular presentation. So firstly, to start, defining this mega trend. These are sweeping global forces that has a long-term impact on societies, economies, and also environment, and also in the technology. So these are things that are changing our spaces. They are also what we call the macroeconomic geostrategic forces that are reshaping our world and also our collective futures. Their implications are quite broad and also varied, and they often present us with what we call opportunities and also some risk that we must begin to mitigate. Much more within the higher education sector, these megatrends influence how institutions operate, how universities, as it were, should operate, how students should learn, the demands around these curricular reforms, and also how this curricula has to be delivered. So they try to make sure that they influence that particular aspect also. Again, just to give you some contextual background as I'm coming from so that I could locate in context my talk to you, that this global higher education is undergoing what we call significant transformation driven by these mega trends here and elsewhere, South Africa and also in the world. These are shaping our education systems. As I said, they present both challenges and also opportunities for us to adopt what we call flexible strategies. Now, higher education institutions here also in other places in the world face a very complex and very volatile landscape than ever before. For some of you who have been in universities in the past, you know how different things are. Shaped by these issues like around your geopolitical tensions that is happening in the world, the political interference to the work of the universities, as we have seen in the American systems, economic uncertainties in terms of monies, increased demand for access that is required, and also these rising tuition fees and this technological disruption. These are some of these things that are beginning to impact how we do education. Universities here in South Africa and elsewhere are expected to demonstrate resilience in dealing with these current crises, building sustainability, and also planning for this uncertain future. So you have to plan for something that you don't know. And that's the space that we are in as higher education. And we are expected to continue to stand for core values such as academic freedom, equity and inclusion, as well as being open to address global challenges and also working across borders. So amongst all these challenges, you are still expected again to make sure that you continue to stand for core values. And I'm saying understanding these current mega trends is essential for us to ensure that our institutions remain relevant and also responsive in a very rapid changing world. And these megatrends requires institutions of higher learning to rethink their traditional modes of teaching, learning, and also how they are governed, their frameworks. It has to change. Now, just again to give you a highlight in terms of in a very brief way, the state of the affairs in the country South Africa. We have been characterized by this declining growth in the macroeconomic stability concerns over debt. I think you know how South Africa is indebted. About 50% of South Africans still live below poverty line. That's a fact, it's what we know. There is a lot of inequality also, we know. Of course, there's some progress that has been made by government, but we are still among the highest in the world, being an equal society. Of particular concern is the rising unemployment among the youth. If you look in terms of the state SA records, the biggest proportion of young people is the one that is facing this big problem. The changing composition of our GDP, your manufacturing and the mining share that are declining. These are one of the facts. And also our gross domestic product that has remained relatively in a very stagnant, about 410 billion USD dollars. We also in the country, perceptions of corruptions and mismanagement that has deepened over the past decade. These are the things that are in our space. And also the downgrade of the sovereign credit rating that most of you are aware of, resulting in a low economic growth and also the outlook, the so-called junk status that we are supposed to be in. Now, the first issue that I want to share with you is around this geopolitical fragmentation that is beginning to impact how universities and other institutions are beginning to do their work. And this, of course, is around the rising tensions between the major powers, such as the US, China, Russia, and also Europe, that are shaping trade and alliances. It's no longer the world as you know it. Things have changed. The growing stature of the BRICS alliance reflecting a significant shift in the global economic and geopolitical landscape, the South-South cooperation that is emerging, the multipolar world that is emerging from this unipolar world that we're used to. The trade tariffs or the war on trade, which countries are now imposing the barriers and the policies to protect their own spaces. The conflicts in Ukraine, Gaza, continue to undermine the UN peace resolutions, and also the rise of these globally far-right movements and populism that are gaining ground, challenging issues relating to diversity, your equity, and also inclusion. And lastly, the national identity that has been prioritized today over the global cooperation, as exemplified by the rise of the MAGA politics, for those of you who follow US politics, and also what is happening in Europe, in Italy and other places, the rise of these national identity politics that undermine global cooperation. Another issue that, in my view, is quite very important for us to take note of when we talk about these mega trends is the shifting power dynamics, the rise of what we call the East. It's a reality, it's a fact. It's another notable mega trend that, the rise of the East, which primarily about, the economic and the political, cultural emergence of Asian countries, particularly China, India, that are emerging as global powers. You can see on the slide there that, they are projecting that in the year 2030, China is going to be the largest economy in the world, about $62 trillion, followed by India, and America number 3, and also Indonesia number 4. So that's what they're projecting in the year 2030. The makeup of the world is going to change. And then, of course, we can see your top 10 countries, that are Turkey, Brazil, Egypt, Russia, Japan, and also Germany that are also following in that particular direction. And this rise of these East countries represent a profound shift in the global landscape politics with a very significant implications for economies, societies, and also international relations. Understanding these trends is crucial for business and also for policymakers, higher education institutions, and also individuals that are looking to navigate this challenging and changing global environment. So you can't be a university or a business not understand what is going to happen in about 10 years, 15 years to come, what is changing around our spaces. Another issue, though important, which I'm not going to spend much time on, is around this increasing inequality. I've already spoken about it, that we know about in South Africa. But the most important issue that I want to raise is about the problem that this can bring to us. Now, if this is unchecked, this rising inequality can fuel social unrest and undermine what we call the democratic institutions and also the social order that we are so used to. Addressing these complex issues requires a comprehensive policies, the interventions also, and promoting what we call equitable growth, enhancing social protection for those that are below the poverty line, ensuring that all individuals have a fair share and a chance to succeed. That's how, in my view, we can begin to mitigate for such kind of a trend. Another issue that is quite important is around this accelerating urbanization. You go elsewhere in the world, if you go to travel to Asia, you go to India, you go to Brazil, you begin to see the kind of challenges that I'm talking about, where this increasing urbanization is playing a very significant role as a mega trend that is shaping our world. The United Nations organization has projected that by the year 2050, nearly 68% of the world's population will reside in cities. Are we prepared for that? Our current cities able to carry those numbers? And this is what has been projected in the year 2050. And the shift is driven by the numerous factors, including this pursuit of employment, access to education, health, and other issues that are in the big cities. So while this urbanization can stimulate economic growth, but also, if unchecked, it can also present challenges, such as overcrowding, as we see, inadequate infrastructure, and also this environmental degradation that is beginning to happen elsewhere. So these are the things that we have to be alive to. So what should be the role of universities in this configured space that we are now entering? Another issue for me that is quite important that I want to highlight is around the decline of trust in science. Now, if the public begin to not trust the science that is being produced, then you ask yourself, what type of the world, what type of the country we can be like? And this, of course, is a multifaceted issue that has garnered a very significant attention in recent years, this decline of trust in science. The rise of the social media has really facilitated, in my view, a rapid spread of what you call the misinformation and also disinformation, the so-called fake news. You've got a space where now people cannot differentiate between what is truth and also what is fake. And these are the spaces that we must navigate. And this false information can easily go viral. Issues relating to climate change, where people still believe today that this is a hoax. There are people in top powers who believe climate change is a hoax. It's not real. Issues around vaccination and this genetic modification that has become politicized. So things that are supposed to be helping us, then they become politicized and people lose faith in those services. And we've seen here also in the country this persistent, during the COVID crisis, how the distrust on the vaccines began to emerge. Now, interpreting these scientific findings through a political lens, in my view, becomes one of the key problems that lead to decline of trust in science. When you mix politics with these issues of explaining them through that particular lens, you erode the trust of people. My view is that scientists and also researchers should strive to communicate their findings in a very clear and accessible language, engage with public through various platforms. Gone are the days where if you are a researcher or a scientist, you do your research, all it does is just stuck it in the library and you believe people will understand it. We're going to need to make sure that we change the modes of communicating our findings and science, wherein you go to public, you go to people to explain what you have done. Another quite important issue that also is a problem here in the country is this rising university fees. Not only university fees, we can also say the TVET and other colleges. Things are changing. And this is shaping higher education, influencing everything from institutional operations and also to what we call the student access and success. It's a fact. We do know here in the country that the National Student Financial Aid Scheme is facing a very significant challenges, including corruptions, the inability to fully support all qualifying students. So we've got students who are supposed to be funded, but they cannot be funded because there's shortage of money. We also know about this student debt in the country, about 18.5 billion rand that is owed by students to universities. And how do you begin to run these institutions if you don't have money to run or to operate such institutions? Now, the financial strain not only affects students' ability to enter the workforce, but also places universities under a very strain or huge pressure, in my view, to remain sustainable. And this rising tuition cost and student debt requires institutions to be proactive in finding some solutions. So you can't just say things are where they are and then you do nothing. We have to come up with some solutions to mitigate the space. And understanding these trends help institutions to develop financial models and support systems that make higher education more accessible. You can ensure that those that register, they are being assisted to make sure that they are able to complete in a period that is allocated to them. And then you're able to save a lot of money. Another issue is around this ever-changing job market, the future of work as we know it. We know it's changing. It's a fact. Oxford University predicts that about 20 million manufacturing jobs will be lost by the year 2030. And they're saying by the year 2050, 60 to 80% of the jobs are expected to be automated and transformed. And this is what is happening, something that we are aware of that is happening. And the jobs of the future are expected to be more machine-powered and also data-driven, but they also require a very unique human skills such as complex problem solving that we must have. So in other words, when you train students, we have to train them differently. Critical thinking skills, interpretation, design thinking, creativity, originality, and also initiative and being resilient. And lastly, for me, quite very important, this emotional intelligence that you want students to have. So there's also a demand for a high skills over these degrees that we're offering. The rise of these macro credentials, something that is happening. As you heard, I think, yesterday or the day before, that Google is offering a lot of programs where everybody now is going to study through Google, and then you receive your certificate. And then you ask yourself, should I go and subject myself for 4 years or 3 years, or should I just go Google and get myself a certificate in that manner? So these are the things that we need to ensure that we do. So higher education, in my view, should adopt their curricula, their teaching methods, and also prepare students for a rapid changing workforce, emphasizing skills like digital literacy, critical thinking, and also adaptability for them to be able to move. And then, of course, the need for flexible blending learning models. I'm not going to talk much about this. I think you do know what I'm talking about. That we need to move towards blended learning models that combine online and also in-person instruction. offering flexibility for accessibility for the diverse student population. So you're going to need to make sure that you fuse the two. You can't be stuck in one format that is ever-changing. The increased use of the technology in the classroom, that in my view should define what we need to do moving forward. And then, of course, the other issue that is quite very key for me is around this data-driven decision-making. We must be led by data for us to make decisions. So we must use data analytics to help institutions to make informed decisions about admissions, student success, and also resource allocation. We must use data that is available. Personalized learning experiences that should be developed through data analysis to meet the individual needs of our students. So you are able to really tailor-make a program that suits an individual student, but just zooming into a particular person using the data. So by leveraging this space, in my view, university can make an informed decision that enhance efficiency and also improve outcomes and drive innovation and also enhance student success. And then, of course, the issues around our impact of artificial intelligence. I'm not going to talk about this. I think we all know what space is changing. A lot of things are changing as we speak. So how do we, as universities and business, make sure that we are able to adapt to this large space? This large adoption of generative AI that is changing our work in our spaces. We have to make sure that we look into that. And also the issue that I'm not going to spend much time around, this rise in the lifelong learning, that we are no longer in this space that you come for 3 years, 4 years, and then you go. The world is changing. It's a continuous learning that you're going to need to do. From when you complete your degree, you get into workspace, you continue to learn. So these are the spaces that are changing. So this is a key mega trend that is driven by this rapid pace of technical change and also the need for continual skills development. The skills are always changing, so we have to make sure that we do that in. Yeah, I think just to mention one point around measuring the outcomes beyond traditional metrics is a space that I think all of us, we are accustomed to, redefining this success. The use of these traditional metrics that are often measures activities, tasks that are completed are becoming outdated, and the focus should be on the outcomes and also measuring the value and the change that has been achieved. So this is a space that also we must begin to move and make sure that we do. So there's a space for us as higher education to ensure that we do. So the skills relating to critical thinking, people management, emotional intelligence, negotiations, cognitive flexibility, knowledge production, and also management, and being international savvy. These are the things that we're going to need to ensure that we're able to measure as we teach. And then, of course, cultivating this global citizenship towards intercultural competencies. You can't be stuck now into this one hole while the world is fusing. Integrating this global cultural education into the curriculum that can help students understand the complexities of the global issues and also these cultural diversities. We must begin to celebrate cultural diversity by hosting events that celebrate different cultures, fostering appreciation and the respect for diversity, because we do well when we're diverse. And this is a space that we must be able to lead as higher education. And then again, the most important aspect in my view, this issue relating to mental health awareness, that as universities we must understand is again another big and recognized mega trend that is influencing by the complex interplay of biological, psychological, economic, and these social factors. Now, the World Health Organization and other international bodies are recognizing that mental health and global health priority and leading to the increasing attention of resources that have been allocated to this particular aspect. So you go to see what HWO is doing, the amount at which money is being put into this particular space, it tells you this is a problem. Now in South Africa, there's a study that was conducted by Investec that says, we are losing about 161 billion rand per annum based on these mental health issues, kind of including your depression, anxieties. So we are also in that space able to do something about that. I'm just happy that, when most celebrities and people of power are able to come out, share their, circumstances, we begin to demystify these particular issues of mental health so that we can have conversation around it so that people can able to really talk about it and how do we have to do that. And then in our view that, this mental health plays a very critical role and crucial role in student success, not only university, but also basic education as it were. And then, of course, we're going to need to ensure that we break the silos. We can't be teaching as we were doing. We have to make sure that we fuse disciplines. You cannot go and study economics alone, because when you graduate, the world is no longer economics. It's economics plus this, plus that, plus that. You're going to need to know some other disciplines. So you have to make sure that, we provide this multidisciplinary approach in terms of how we teach, so that students are prepared for the future that is uncertain. And it's a space that all of us, we can able to contribute. And then, of course, this very important area around entrepreneurship and innovation, quite very important. We can't be teaching students to go and look for the job. We must be teaching them to be able to bring jobs, create spin-offs in how we're doing it. I'm just happy that, on the 17th of September this year, last month, our cabinet approved the publication of the draft National Entrepreneurship Strategy, for implementation plan and also for public comment. That's a very good thing, because you need these policies to be driven by government. And it's something that I really treasure, because in our view, it's not only now individual university, but the government also is moving towards that direction. So quite a very important aspect. So my concluding remarks as I now conclude, the landscape of global education is continually evolving, influenced by technological advancement, societal needs, and the changing demographics. The landscape is also undergoing a transformative phase marked by a series of significant mega trends, as I said, that are shaping our education. By recognizing and responding to these mega trends with adaptable strategies and approaches, in my view, higher education here and elsewhere can be able to create a more inclusive, flexible, and very relevant learning experiences. As we have explored about these mega trends, they sort of encompass a wide range of aspects, from the rise of the online learning, as I just said earlier, the emphasis of skills-based education, and also this changing job market that we are now beginning to see. So for me, the future of education lies in the ability to innovate, collaborate, ensuring that institutions remain responsive to the needs of the students and that of a society at large. And these are just the list of references that I've consulted for my slide. Thank you so much, Program Director. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor. And like a good academic, you did provide the references of where you saw the material. I'll take two quick questions from the floor, but my immediate one is, given the extensive list of, I suppose, considerations that you as a Vice-Chancellor and a principal of the school, your entire academic staff, needs to contend with, and for the last 2 days, we've generally been hearing how particularly public universities are quite slow to respond to some of these challenges, right? There's not a lack of agility, perhaps an inability to be agile. How do you then address all of those challenges?
Yeah, I think they have to be addressed. I don't think we can say as a country or public institutions that we are immune from what is happening. They have to be addressed. And I'm just happy that, the space that I am in higher education, there's a lot of opportunities. And sometimes when you speak from the outside, you don't see what is available. I can tell you that normally I think the point has been said to say it takes ages for curricula to change. It's not like that. You don't have to go to CHE, SAQA, or DIET for you to change whatever. There's 50% that is allowed. So if let's say I know I've got maybe 20 programs that I'm teaching that require some configuration, I can change 50% of each of those without going to SAQA or CHE. So the ability, in my view now, lies with the university's willingness to make sure that they change. How do they engage with the employers, with industries to make sure that they infuse what is happening in industry into the particular space? So the space for me is quite open, it's not rigid, it can be changed.
And I suppose the bigger issue that has certainly been not only spoken about in this conference, but previous conferences, is a financing model. You made reference to 18 billion rand in student debt that is owed to universities. We know that Inogonogwane, the finance minister, is not giving you guys any more money, at least not the amounts that you need. What needs to happen in that space, do you think?
I think for me, Africa, there's some sense where you begin to tell yourself there must be some political will to begin to resolve certain issues. I think if you do follow our country, it's not that we are poor. South Africa is not poor. There is a lot of money in the country. Now, the idea to make sure that you really put it where it's supposed to be put, in my view, is a question. So most of these students who are owing this money, in my view, most of them are first generation in their families. And access has been provided for them to get education, to change their livelihood. And they couldn't able to pay if they have to, because of this other problem that they do have. But there has to be, in my view, a political will to make sure, how do we intervene to make sure that we resolve that thing? So I think for me, that's a message, and my colleagues, that we're beginning to push to government to say there has to be some intervention.
And with the new Minister of Higher Education and Training, hopefully we'll see some of that realized. Show of hands. Question there, the microphone there, please.
Good morning. Wow, Prof, thanks for knowledge sharing. I can literally sit here the whole day and listen to you and sharing all this knowledge. It was so much shared in such a short time. Thank you so much for that. Thank you, and I'm Juanita Frans from Namibia, the Namibia University of Science and Technology. Thank you so much for touching on the silos. So let's break the silos of curriculum and only setting one, discipline, and better equip the students with hybrid, of course with majors, so that the person can be certified and say this is marketing, so the majors will be there, but that the disciplines can equip the student more effective for the accessibility of the work market and the job market out there. The other one is just also a comment to see how's your feeling about data sharing locally and internationally, because currently we are all universities and students apply here, they come over to Namibia, they come from Namibia this side, I did a qualification there, but nowhere do we share. It's just the student coming with a whole portfolio. Exactly. The sharing of information is so much important for me to just effectively deliver service and just go into a portal where we all belong and balance. Did the student do that? Where I can also see, did the student make trouble here? Was there fraud? Was there this? Why are they coming to that side? Because most of the time when the going gets tough, this is where you realize, this qualification was never even awarded. Student was, enrolled, but he never got the qualification. Thank you so much.
With your permission, we'll take your first comment as a comment, and then I'm going to ask Professor Nthambeleni to focus on data sharing.
I think you're quite right around data sharing. We cannot be universities only here in this part of the country or the world. We got neighbors, you got your countries around you, and have to make sure you got a continent. We have to share. There's a move that, in my view, is going to be a good one if it gets to be realized that, you begin to talk about this transferring of credits. That if I studied my first year at University of Namibia, and then I want to do my second year at University of Venda, or VETS, I don't have to come and repeat first year as is normally happening. So we're going to have to make sure that we match the system. And there's something good in my view that is beginning to happen in that particular space. I'm also quite very happy because I also sit as a USAF board and also what we call Tensor board. I think you know Tensor. That, you know, most of the universities in Namibia are also part of that. So the sharing again of the spaces and data for me is quite very elaborate in that particular space. Thank you.